Alright guys, you can see I already started working on this one. I wasn't really recording on the sketch. I was actually just playing around for quite some time, just testing out Corel after the update to make sure that it wasn't going to keep crashing on me like it's been doing. And they fixed it very, very well. I was using it for about 3 hours straight, just on a huge canvas too. This is like 3500 by 2000, I believe, at 200 pixels per square inch. So it's good that it's able to let me work on a big canvas again without all that lag. It's running a lot smoother and all that. So I definitely wanted to make a point to say that, because I know I've been hating on Corel lately because it's been acting ridiculous, but they did fix the problem. So anybody that's got Corel and has been hating on it, just get on there and update it and it'll work fine. So you'll see I'm flipping my canvas like I recommend, and it's good to have it for the eye look good in both ways. That's the easiest way to get proportions right, is to have them to where whenever you flip them, they look proportionate from both angles. Because sometimes your eyes will get used to seeing things one way, and you'll start drawing, and then when you flip it, it doesn't look very good from the other angle. Once your brain takes that left hand and makes it a right hand, it'll look strange. But if your proportions are right, you should be able to flip it and it'll look good as both a right and a left hand, and it's just a real good trick. So I put this one at double speed. There's a little time lapse, but I'm pretty much working in real time. I didn't edit out anything, so you're gonna see every mistake I make, like these shoulders and stuff. Again, just to prove, that these things aren't just like one stroke was and that's how it was. I mean, it's okay to make mistakes, and you don't just give up if you can't do it right the first time. It's fine to sit there and keep working it until you find out the right shape that you want and all that. And that's the whole beauty of working digitally, I feel. So now I'm starting to do the body. I'm trying to just maintain curves, make it feel accurate. I'm not the biggest anatomy expert, but I've drawn enough people that I kind of know where things are placed and how far down they should be. So I'm just going over my sketch that I already had. This is where you just can't stress enough the importance of having a good base sketch down, because it's what you're going to use for the rest of your picture. I mean, you can see how sketchy everything is in the back, but it doesn't have to be perfect, so don't spend time with details. But as long as you get the placement right, you can have the confidence with your line work to go back in there and just try and more define the object with your lines, rather than trying to figure out where stuff's going while you're doing that process. That's where I feel a lot of people can get caught up and confused, is that they try and tackle it all at once and figure out where the hand should go, how the placement of it, the size of it, and all the finger shapes and all that all at once. Just break it down into steps. Same thing with what I said with hair, how you break it into clumps. You can almost do the same thing with hands. And sometimes I'll just come in and I'll lay down just kind of a rough idea of what I want, and I'll clean it up more than once, like I do with my line work every now and again. So I get the idea of her fingers like I do right here, and I'm going to use the lasso tool to go ahead and just cut them out, because I can tell it doesn't look right. Her fingers are way too big compared to her thumb. So I'm just going to squeeze them down a little bit, move them, get it positioned where I want, but I'm not just going to use that as my drawing. Like that's how I do it. You'll see what I end up doing is I'll fade it out a little bit, and then I'll re-go over it. So I'm basically just using it as a sketch again, and it goes back to what I mean and how the sketch is important for placement. Is I'll just get everything where I want to in my mind, and I'll go ahead and just make it lighter like I am right now, and then I'll come back over top of it and basically just do the hand all over again. With the same principles that I did with the sketch. It's just a little bit easier for me to do it because my placement for some objects are already a little more accurate. So I thinned out her thumb, made it a little more petite, giving her, the palms of her hand, giving her those little indentations on the bottom of your hand whenever you're pulling it back. It always makes those little indentations by your wrist. Toning down her wrists a little bit. They just seemed a little too bulgy. I wanted the bulge to kind of be more in the hand and the palm to suggest that she was pulling back. add in the fingers. You'll see I'm working on what's on top of what too, because basically all your lines are describing is to your eye where something overlaps something. So the only time I really am even going to need to use a line is if something's coming on top. So I just stop my lines wherever I feel that they're going to disappear behind that object, and then I'll just continue to draw the object on top of it. You can go through the object and then erase it later if you're working on multiple layers, but after you work a little more and more, you'll kind of have the confidence of what you've already done, practiced on your multiple pictures, and you'll condense it into less steps to save time, basically, because a lot of this work can become time consuming if you just sit there and you try and use every little trick you can. It can take ages just to get small things done. So sometimes I just like to go ahead and use as much as my natural skill as I possibly can. So I made a new layer. Her chin was bothering me after I bought drew the rest of her body out. I didn't really like the placement of where her chin was. It was making her lower jaw look a little too long, and her face didn't seem quite round enough and full enough to be as cute as I was going for. And I just didn't like it. So I just simply made a new layer, erased it up to the old layers that are underneath it. And then I went ahead and put in the face line. Now I'm cutting them out. They ended up on the same layer on accident, and I wanted those separate so I could fade them out. I don't really need to use them for my drawing. It's just a little light, gives me an idea where my head is, and helps me out with the rest of the body expression if I know which way her noggin is pointing. So now I'm going to go ahead and try and conquer the perspective of this hand, and I found the easiest way is just to literally think of it as objects on top of objects. So same thing with what I was doing with the fingers. I'm going to do with her entire hand on top of her shoulder, and due to the perspective and how large it makes her hand, since she's such a petite character, that her hand's going to cover up just almost the entire majority of her arm besides her upper shoulder. And so luckily for me in this particular pose I don't have to do that, but sometimes when you'll find you're doing muscular guys, you'll have to show some forearm because they have larger body parts, and it can get a little hard in your head. So if you just kind of break them off as objects and then erase where they don't actually would show a line, sometimes it makes it easier to do the contours of the arms and stuff that are stretching forward at you. And I have another picture that I put up a couple days prior to Valentine's Day that has a similar perspective of a male character, that his arm is definitely a lot more showing due to his structure. And if you're more curious on how to do the entire arm as well, then you can check that video out. This one's just a little more for the hand, and I wanted to have some fun practicing the perspective of fingers and stuff just to give me some more confidence on my hands. I've been getting better at them, so I've just been challenging myself to try and do more and more. So I'm starting to get the wrong angles on this hand. It seems like her thumb was in the right position, but now it's too low, and if it was really pointing at you in a way, it would be at such a perspective that the hand would not look nearly as, the palm of the hand would not be nearly as wide as it is right there. She's pointing towards you. Some of the palm is just going to flatten due to the point that her wrist and her knuckles are starting to become more and more level with your eye plane as she's bringing her arm up. So I'm just thinking to myself, let me get rid of some of the stuff in the background that's messing with my eyes. Let me get my fingers where I know that I want them, and I'll just build the palm off the rest of the hand as I see fit. I can almost tell at this point that I'm gonna have to redo the thumb because it's just not in the right place. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock out that whole bottom piece like I was talking about, and I'm gonna keep working from where I feel I had right, and try and keep condensing this and just play with different lines. See what I can tell my own eye, and see if I can't figure out how I want this hand to look ultimately by the time I'm done, and feel that it's that I'm satisfied with it. See, here's another example. I just threw on another layer because I just couldn't find the angle until I could draw through the whole picture, and I didn't want to deal with the tedious task of erasing it. So I just put on another layer and just erased it in a different layer, and then I'll merge it all together. So sometimes you'll want to do it for one line. Sometimes, I'll go a whole hand and I won't do it once, but it's just really up to your preference and how much time you really are trying to save, or how much trouble maybe that particular line is giving you. And sometimes it gets confusing on what's on what layer. You see, I just tried to erase it there, and I forgot that it was on another layer. And so it can get real confusing, so I try and keep it as simple as I can. So I think I got this just about the way that I want. You can see now I'm trying to find the shoulder behind it just by turning layers on and off, and I'm going to go ahead and erase it. Since I pulled her hand up from my sketch, there's a little bit of this back piece that isn't quite right, so I'm going to go back to that layer and try and blend these two lines back in together as best I can and get her back looking good. I'm having a hard time with this, so I'm just going to go ahead and just do it all over again from scratch. And yeah, so it can seem like a hard task, but it's not really so bad once you get into it and just simplify things and break it down and use some of the tools that you have at your disposal. That's pretty much the end of the picture here. It didn't take me too terribly long to do this one, so if I'm not mistaken, the rest is just cleaning up the rest of this sketch here, signing my old name on it. And thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Alright.